I feel like there's so much stigma on biracial or multiracial adoption these days. I mean, there's like adoption haters online now,
Yeah.
TikTok, and it really saddens me because a person is a person. We're human beings. And if this is the way I created my family, so be it. I would do it all over again to have Milana as my daughter.
Welcome to the Adoption Roadmap Podcast, your go to guide through the beautiful, complex, and transformative journey of adoption. I'm Rebecca Gruenspan, a single mom through adoption consultant for over a decade, author of the Adoption Roadmap book, and your trusted guide. In each episode, we dive into real experiences, expert insights, and the raw, honest truths that you will need to navigate your journey. Whether you're just beginning, in the thick of it, or well past placement, you'll find support and community here to help you navigate this unique path with confidence and love. Adoption isn't all rainbows and butterflies. It is life-changing and worth every bit of effort. Let's learn, grow, and journey together on the Adoption Roadmap Podcast. Today's guest is someone I deeply admire, Aida Phillips. She's a mom through adoption, an advocate, and the founder of Born From Our Souls, Nacidos del Alma. I hope I said that right. A bilingual platform dedicated to supporting Spanish-speaking families through their adoption journeys. Aida became a mother 14 years ago after walking through years of infertility, heartbreak, and 4 failed adoptions. Her experience showed her just how isolating adoption can feel, especially in communities where it's rarely talked about and resources are scarce. Now she's on a mission to change that by breaking the taboo around adoption in the Hispanic community, offering support in both English and Spanish, and reminding families that they're not alone. Today, we're talking about the barriers, the breakthroughs, and why representation in adoption, especially in language and culture, matters more than ever. Let's get into this. Hello, Aida. I want to start by asking you, you said that there's still a really big taboo around adoption in the Hispanic community. So what are some of the cultural beliefs or pressures that you've seen keep families from even considering adoption? Let's start with
Yeah,
that, Doozy.
absolutely. And thank you so much for that introduction. I'm so happy
Yes.
to be here. Um, Basically, in the Hispanic community, the Latino community, it's still very taboo because
Mhm.
and I say we because I'm Latino, but we feel that culturally you have to have your own children. Like that's a
Mhm.
mindset that people have, and they mix in the religion, which is mostly Catholic, where it's not looked upon right. And one major factor, of course, is the cultural aspect of it. I believe, that it's not talked about as
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
People who are Latino and adopted, they keep it to themselves and don't tell their children they're adopted most of the time. So definitely, I want to break that, cycle of taboo.
Yeah, and I've even found it with birth moms who are Hispanic. I adopted my son who is Mexican. Um, Birth moms who are Hispanic oftentimes don't tell their families they're placing until maybe afterwards. And I found that to be very common. I also found to be very common with Hispanic expectant moms that they don't go to the hospital or to get to doctor's appointments to get prenatal care as often because of the shame that surrounds them. So they really try to stay to themselves without getting too many people in their business. They really, and that's got to be so lonely.
It is. I believe so, because you don't have your tribe, even your family
Yeah.
stays away from you because of that.
Hmm.
But I truly believe that we're making progress little by little
Yeah.
in this realm.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And I also in the Black community, I've seen that too, right? So in various communities, there's so much stigma,
Hmm.
and to have to kind of tackle that on your own without the support of your community around you, or at the very least your family and friends, um, is hard. What kind of support or information do you wish existed when you were starting your adoption journey?
Well, as you can see, I'm perfectly fluent in English, and
Yes.
obviously I can read it and understand it very well. But Spanish is my first language, and I really longed to find information in Spanish. Don't ask me why, even
Interesting.
though I could read and understand in English. It's just my first language, and I found it very odd that there was not any websites back 14 years ago in Spanish, with tips and what to do. And
Hmm.
I really came to the realization that it was such a big taboo that there wasn't any information out there, unfortunately. So I wish I would have had more information in Spanish.
Hmm.
And obviously, I also wished you were around because I did. We did, encounter a lot of hurdles where they just took our money and ran
Oof.
from different agencies or lawyers. So that's why I said, okay, once I have my baby, I want to help.
Yeah. Yeah. I I actually recently took on another venture where I'm now the CEO of Our Chosen Child, which is a company that develops profiles, but also works with agencies to create their online waiting family pages that shows all their families. And I recently spoke with an agency who said, well, one of our the things that we want to do is have every single our non-negotiables, that's the word that this woman's brain was trying to think of. One of our non-negotiables is having our waiting family pages both in English and in Spanish, and that was such a breath of fresh air to hear. And
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, it's not so easy to find people to translate that type of thing. Yes, Aida.
Please keep me
Okay,
in mind. Yes,
great.
I would love to do
You're
that.
in
Yes.
mind. Let's talk about that.
Yes,
But it's so nice to see that at least one agency wants that to be out there for people to break at least one barrier from from an expectant mom choosing a family and really knowing what they're about.
exactly. And you really need to understand and be on the same wavelength.
Hmm.
And, I always tell everybody there's no one that can tell you better than someone that's already been through it, even
Yeah.
though every situation and every adoption is very different. But at least you have the common knowledge that, this is the steps that you need to take. And these are the people that you need to go to um, without, getting overwhelmed because it is overwhelming.
Yeah. So is that why you created Born from Our Souls, so that there was Spanish, the Spanish um,
Information.
information out there? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So after our daughter was placed in our arms and we adopted her, I had the vision that I really wanted to, help other people because we had a happy ending after so many struggles and heartbreak. So I contacted a friend of mine who had a TV show in Spanish,
Mm.
and I said, this was before we even got matched. I said, we're in the process of adoption. People don't like to talk about it. I would love if you can document it for your TV show. And once, God willing, we have, a child, we can make it really great. Well, she said yes. Her name's Jeanette Kaploon, who I love dearly, and
Nice.
Pampers actually sponsored it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so we got 17 minutes on national Univision TV, and they documented from the infertility, you know, that we talked about the
Journey, yeah.
infertility. They threw me a baby shower, and then Milana came to the show and we talked about it and showcased the segment, which
Oh
was
my
amazing. So
gosh.
that's what I use now for everything. I use that segment saying, look, this is our story and we can help you. And so I wanted to help the Hispanic community in the United States because there was not any information about it. So that is how Nacidos del Alma, Born from Our Souls, uh, became a thing.
Awesome. Do you have a website?
We don't have a website, but we do have, social media.
Okay.
The thing is that I don't charge anything.
Wow.
I do not charge. I hold your hand from the time that you want to adopt through the time you have your baby with you. And I'm available to talk at any time, send you resources, um, which your agency is one of them, actually, is the one.
Yeah.
And I just like to give back. It's my In Hebrew, it's tikkun olam, to prepare the world. So it's my tikkun to the world,
Hmm.
because I was very lucky to be able to have a daughter through
Is there
adoption.
an equivalent in Spanish to tikkun olam?
Reparar el mundo.
Say it one more time.
Reparar, to repair the world. El
Oh,
mundo.
nice. El mundo.
Hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those. You struggled with infertility, like you said. You also struggled with 4 matches that fell through. What helped you stay hopeful when it would have been so easy to give up after 4 fall throughs? And maybe tell us a little bit about those.
Sure, of course. So when we started the adoption process after the infertility, that we never found a reason to be infertile. They never found a cause of it. And I find it to be meant to be now, or
Yeah.
when I had my daughter, it was meant to be. But so the first lawyer that took our money and ran, he had a situation and then he ghosted us and left the country, like right after we paid him a bit of money. Um, and but by this time we already had our home study, and Denise Brody was our home study psychologist, and she was our number one advocate. So every time she could get her hands on a situation, she would call me and say, Aida, Stanley, we have a situation. So the first one, she said, we have a situation. It's a 12-year-old child who's pregnant, and she wants to give the baby up for adoption, place the baby up for adoption. And I said, oh, absolutely. She was like, yeah, she was unfortunately our, the word. And then when she presented, our case study manager presented our story, or our history to this girl's family, they saw that we were Jewish, and they said, no, I'm sorry, we can't give this baby to a Jewish family.
Yeah.
So that was like heartbreaking. And then the other three were situations to where either the birth mother wanted to keep the baby, and another one was where the family wanted to keep the baby as well. So finally, you know, the fifth try was our our
Wow.
our try.
Okay, I want to go back to 2 things you said. One, with this attorney, like literally, you paid the attorney and then you never heard from that person again?
Yes,
Like he disappeared.
like they closed their
They
agency,
closed their
or
doors.
their doors, and left town.
Oh my God,
We
what
were
a
and we
nightmare.
were one of many. Like, yeah. I don't even remember the name or anything. I like
Yeah.
blocked it out, but
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but that's so heartbreaking. Luckily, I've heard of a couple over the years that that's happened with. And there was one really big agency, and maybe this was the one that you're talking about. I'm not even sure, but um, luckily that has not happened in a long, 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 long time. So I
yeah,
think it's a very low chance that that would happen.
absolutely. Yes.
But the fall throughs. Now, you brought up being Jewish too, and I'm also Jewish, as you know. One of the things, so two things I want to say about that. One is when I was adopting, my consultant, because I used to consult, told me not to have anything Jewish in my profile book. And so I didn't. Um, when I was matched, however, the first thing I said was, she has to know I'm Jewish. Is she okay with me being Jewish? And luckily she was. But before I went further, I made sure, and I'm sorry that the opposite happened for you. But now I tell people, while you don't want any religion to be first and foremost in your profile because you are more than religion, it is important for somebody to know who you are, right? So you can't hide it, and you can't not talk about it. You need to talk about it, and
Absolutely.
you need to show more than anything that you are, that you celebrate something, So sometimes moms don't understand different religions, but they want to know that you celebrate, that you have holiday traditions. So sometimes that's enough. But if it's not, you want to weed those, you know, the matches that aren't right for you out from the beginning,
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. If they're
and be
not
true to
gonna,
who you are.
yeah, it's part of you. Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know this at the time,
Yeah,
and that's the first thing on our bio was we're a Jewish couple
yeah,
because we're very proud of it.
yeah.
But I didn't know that it could bring, you know, what we went through.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You described the adoption process as emotionally draining, which I'm sure many hundreds of people would. What do you really want people to understand about the emotional side of this journey, especially if you're navigating it without strong community support? Before we go on, I'm going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We have so much more to cover. Hey, parents, real talk for a second. Ever find yourself wondering, am I doing this right? Feeling disconnected, overwhelmed, or like your child's needs just don't show up in the parenting books that don't exist? Yeah, I see you. I am you. Parenting through adoption comes with its own nuances, challenges, and moments that most people simply don't talk about because let's face it, we don't usually want people knowing that we're struggling, or sometimes we don't even know who to celebrate with. Somebody who truly gets it. Introducing the Adoption Continuum. This isn't just another parenting group, it's your village, a trusted, judgment free, expert guided community built specifically for you, adoptive parents. Inside, you'll find expert advice and practical strategies tailored for adoptive parenting, live workshops covering everything from attachment to identity, a private, supportive community of parents who get it, consistently updated content and tools to help you grow with your child confidently. Whether you're in the thick of toddler meltdowns or navigating teenage identity struggles, you don't have to do this alone. For a limited time, you can become a founding member at the lowest cost it will ever be. But once the doors close, that rate disappears for good and the doors won't reopen for a while. Want in? Don't wait. Get on our waitlist today so you don't miss the founder's launch of the Adoption Continuum, where kindness, vulnerability, gratitude, and accountability create a space for you to thrive and your child to flourish. Email support at rgadoptionconsulting.com with waitlist in the subject line, or simply click the link in the show notes and we'll make sure you get all the details. The Adoption Continuum, so you don't have to do adoptive parenting alone. What do you really want people to understand about the emotional side of this journey, especially if you're navigating it without strong community support?
Yes, and you did ask me what kept me going. What kept me going was my faith and my belief that I was meant to be a mom.
Mm,
Like, even though I cried, I got depressed,
yeah,
I, I knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and I just hung out, hung to the,
to the
or
thought of
held on.
being,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
held
held
on
on to hope.
to the hope, to the
Yeah.
hope. Yeah. Um, and then the second question now that you asked me was,
Well, before we go there, and I'm sorry I skipped over that. I think holding on to hope is so important. And some people get frustrated when they're seeing announcements of all these people who are adopting. And I want people to look at that instead of saying, "Woe is me, why isn't it happening for me?" and trying to compare your journey to anyone else's, because you cannot. You just don't know anything about what you're seeing. All you're seeing is that they're matched. And the stars have to align. But instead of seeing that and saying, why not me? Say, oh, great, people are matching. That means there is hope for me.
right.
I might be next.
And
So just turning that.
mhm. That's a great point, especially when we were going through the adoption process, all of our family members were getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And that was tough, because not only through the fertility, but also through the adoption. My sister had two girls while we were in the process. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law were also pregnant twice, and just everyone around me. And obviously I was a late bloomer. We adopted, I was 40. So being Mexican, a lot of my friends already had grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
So I just kept on thinking, okay, so this is my life. This is what I need to go through. Um, I am grateful that I can do this, but sometimes, people didn't understand. Like,
Yes.
why are you guys adopting? Well, because I want to be a mom, and Stanley wanted to be a dad. And one of the things that one person told me when I made an announcement that we were adopting, and people were like, why are you saying that? Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. I'm like, embarrassing. So this lady said, how can you adopt and have a child that is not your blood? So I turned to her and I said, wait, are you married? And she said, yeah, for 50 years. And I said, oh, congratulations. I said, how do you love your husband if he's not your blood? And she was like, oh, I never thought about it. I'm like, yeah, you can love anyone, anyone.
I have chills. Yeah.
And after that, I would, just keep on thinking there is a child for me. I know that there's a child meant to be my child. And I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, there was times where I was like, okay, I'm throwing in the towel. I can't anymore.
Yeah. It's hard.
Physically, emotionally, financially, there was just so much going on. And as a matter of fact, when we started the fertility treatments, I got let go of my job after many years.
Our story is like exactly the
The
same.
same.
Same thing happened to me, but go ahead.
We've talked about this before, but I lost my job, and I had already, like, you know confirmed, or allocated, the six treatments of fertility treatments, and I had just lost my job, and we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I don't know. Somehow we made it happen, and it didn't happen. You know, when we went to IVF after five inseminations, the doctor's like, you're older. You're going to have to adopt an egg and adopt a sperm, and all this stuff. And there's a 20% chance of you becoming pregnant. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not spending that money. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere else. And thankfully, in my family, I have an uncle who is adopted, but he didn't find
Okay.
out until he was
Oh,
when
wow.
his mom passed away. So that's another thing that I made it a point that I needed my daughter to know she's adopted
Yeah.
from birth. I mean,
Yeah.
since she was born.
I mean, look at you. I'm going to toot your horn for a second. So here you are in a community that isn't really supportive of adoption. And I'll talk about the Hispanic community because I know the Jewish community is,
Hmm.
at least more so. But the Hispanic community, which you're immersed in, and your friends are already grandparents, and here you are announcing that you're adopting a baby when you know that you're going to get this kind of feedback potentially, but you're like, nope, I'm super proud of it. I know who I am. I know what I want. And through all of it, you just kept your hope alive. So I love that. And I hope that it inspires somebody. Also, while I was going through it, my sister also gave birth. And um, yeah, so I can relate. I can relate. And yet, and I remember, I'll just throw this out there too, because it goes back to it's so important that when we see other people, first of all, getting pregnant, when we know how hard it is, we see people getting pregnant all the time. You think it's easy. It's not easy. And it is a miracle,
Hmm.
right? And giving birth and living through that and all of that, it's all a miracle. And even adopting, when you know the emotional journey and the financial toll it takes, celebrate those people. They fought hard for it just like you are. And you want to be celebrated the same way when it happens for you. And when we celebrate other people, we're putting, if nothing else, good karma out into the world that is going to come back to us.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
So, what do you want? I mean, I guess that's what we want people to understand about the emotional side of the journey, that it is going to be emotional. It is
Find your
hard, but
tribe.
what would you tell people about, did you expect it to be so emotional, and um yeah, how do you go through that without a strong community?
Yeah. Without a strong community, find it.
Oh, yeah.
Find your tribe. And, luckily now there's social media and there's a lot
Mm,
of platforms.
mm-hmm.
There's Facebook groups. There's, um, you know, on Instagram, everywhere, just type adoption and you'll find them. But be careful too. Like, try to find someone that has already been through it, um, that could help you navigate it. Because obviously, in my family, my immediate family, no one adopted. They didn't know
Mm-hmm.
what it was like. They were very supportive. My parents were, and my siblings were very supportive, and my in laws too. Um, but just find those people that can help you.
Yeah. Yeah, because even though your family was supportive, and that's huge, right? They also don't get it. They don't
They don't.
understand adoption.
No.
And
No.
so building that community, whether your community supports you or not, like your overall, we're talking about the Hispanic community, you need to find people who get it, who
Yeah.
understand adoption too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, asking a friend who's a doctor, look, I have these symptoms. What do you think it could be? But unless you don't go to the right person, you won't find out. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just find your adoption tribe. That is my number one advice.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I love that you said, but be careful about how you go about finding it and which tribe you join, because you want to make sure it's one that's going to invite you in and not judge you or for saying the wrong thing, which has happened a lot out there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked a lot about um, resources for both birth moms and hopeful adoptive parents, specifically in the Spanish-speaking world. Why do you think language access is so crucial in helping families make informed decisions? And what resources do you think are out there for people, if any? Other, I know that there's your organization, and you built one. Are there any others, or where can?
I haven't really looked for others, but I know that the Spanish, the language, is very important to those whose first language is Spanish, because there's a lot of technicalities, there are a lot of words that you may not understand, in English, even though you speak it. But I feel like there should be more for sure. Um, and I just feel like there's a barrier, a language barrier when it comes to adoption. Um, and we need to educate people, and that's why Born from Our Souls has been like instrumental too, because I go to Spanish TV networks, and I do a lot of podcasts in Spanish, and I'm out there a lot, talking about adoption, and people come to me to guide them, and that's what I want to do, and just help them navigate through all the hurdles, and just direct them to the right tribe or the right
Yeah.
people, and so that they can understand it in Spanish. Obviously, I translate a lot of stuff that's out there in English, because I feel like there's still a huge lack of information in Spanish.
Yeah. I feel like I want you to answer all these questions in Spanish too, but I think we'll be here too long. But but maybe just at least for this question, maybe you can talk in Spanish about how I know that there's a lack of resources, and it's important that you have it, and it's important that people have it. Exactly what you said. Like, there's too many nuances. You need to know what you're saying yes to. You need to know what you're signing. You need to know, and you can't just like say, oh, I think this is what it's saying in overall terms. It's too important.
It's too important, yes, of course.
So, yeah.
Lo que les quiero decir en español es que en el mundo de la adopción hace mucha falta, la empatía, uno. Dos, también no hay la información que debería de haber en español. Y desafortunadamente hay muchísima información, vaya la redundancia, que es en inglés, pero que uno como habla hispano no tiene la capacidad de entenderlo. Entonces pueden firmar cosas que no. Y lo más importante es que busquen ayuda. Nosotros en Nacidos del Alma los acompañamos, no les cobramos nada para acompañarlos y referirlos a las personas adecuadas que sí les pueden ayudar para adoptar a su bebé o a su niño, aquí en los Estados Unidos.
Thank you.
De nada.
Gracias. Is it enough to take a profile or to take documents of birth mother's rights and put it through Google Translate or ChatGPT to translate it?
You know, I love ChatGPT for many reasons, but for translation, I feel like you have to have someone that's immersed fluently, that's their mother tongue, to translate anything. I was doing a lot of translations for work, and they cut down because now they go to ChatGPT and translate it, but it doesn't have the same meaning. There's stuff that can be altered, so I would not recommend it.
Okay. And I knew you were going to say that, because we recently were trying it with profiles, and I ran it past somebody who's a Spanish speaker, and she's like, it's literally translated, but it doesn't get across what you're trying to get across in a profile. So
Exactly.
don't just go to Google Translate and think that you might send the wrong message instead of the
Absolutely.
right
Yeah, you don't want to
message.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. So, Aida, typically when we talk about transracial adoption, most people think, if we were to poll 2,000 people and say, what do you first think of when we say transracial adoption? What are they going to say? They're probably going to say white parents adopting Black children. Um, and I know, and it's so much more than that. Personally, I looked, as a white mom adopting a Hispanic child, there aren't really a lot of resources out there depicting my family. And you and your husband are kind of opposite. You are Hispanic, you're Mexican, and your husband's Cuban, right?
Right.
Who adopted a white child. Um, and then to top it off, you, like myself, were both Jewish. So I know that you've actually described yourself as a Jutina, or maybe somebody else coined that phrase and I don't know. I love it though.
Yeah. I
I
use it.
love
Yeah.
that. A
Thank you.
Jutina, a Latina, and a Jewish person. How has your ethnic, cultural, and religious background shaped the way you're parenting and the values that you're bringing into your home? And has that been a struggle? Like, how has all of that kind of played into your family life?
You know, yeah. So my husband is Cuban American. Well, Cuban American. His father's from Brooklyn and his mother's from Cuba, and I'm Mexican, 100% Mexican. Even though my ancestors are Eastern European, obviously. But so we didn't when we were in the adoption process, we didn't care what race, what ethnicity, anything of the baby. We just wanted to be parents. When we did adopt Milana and she was as white as can be, um, it didn't even dawn on me. I mean, yeah, there was a couple of people, envious people who were like, oh, she's so white and blue eyes, and people are going to tell you whose baby is that. And we never, maybe once we got, oh, why is your baby so white and why does she have blue eyes? And it was at a grocery store, and I was like, yeah, her grandfather has blue eyes. I wasn't going to get into
Yeah.
she's adopted. But I feel like there's so much stigma on biracial or multiracial adoption these days. I mean, there's like adoption haters online now,
Yeah.
TikTok, and it really saddens me because a person is a person. We're human beings. And if this is the way I created my family, so be it. I would do it all over again to have Milana as my daughter. And
Mm-hmm.
as I've said in many interviews and many podcasts too, I've said, before we were born, God said, you're going to be Milana's mom, and Milana's going to be your daughter. And yes, you're going to go through a lot of stuff to get to the point, but Stanley's also supposed to be his her father. And that's what I keep. I think that people should not look at black, white, brown, any of that stuff. We're all human beings and we all deserve a loving environment, a loving family. And that's what I push for. Don't look at the race, don't look at anything. Even religion, right now, we're going through a lot, as you know. And yes, there are evil people in the world, and then there's good people in the world.
Yeah.
Just stick with the good people and make them your tribe.
Yeah, I mean, I can take that at a certain level. I do think it's not as simple as that when it comes to race and maybe even culture. Um, and it's interesting because maybe it's more of a thing when you are adopting. I don't know. I don't know if it matters, but who's adopting who. But I mean, certainly if you're a white family adopting a Black child, you need to know what that means. And you
Oh,
need to
absolutely.
know, and the same with Hispanic and the same, there are those things. So it's not as simple as, and you need to, have them in your community and make sure that they're accepted and all of that. So I don't think it's as simple as human beings are human beings. And I also know what you're saying, that at the end of the day, we all need to treat each other with humanity and respect and love and kindness and celebrate all of the things that make us who we are.
Absolutely. And to that point, maybe I'm saying this because I have a white child and I've never experienced it
Right.
differently, but it comes from love. Obviously, I don't have the experience, but I totally get what you're saying. That there needs to be more resources too. Like, for instance, someone that has, a child that's of color, and how to wash their hair, even,
Yeah.
things like that.
Right.
And there's people on TikTok and on Instagram, talking about how they adopted a child of color, and how they're raising them. So there should be more of those people,
Yeah.
and adoption should be in everyone's vocabulary. I think that people shouldn't look at it as
Mm-hmm.
taboo. They shouldn't look at it as, oh my God, like one person said, but don't you miss having a belly, like getting pregnant? No. I was actually thinner than ever when Milana was born for my baby
That's
shower.
funny.
No,
Yeah.
you know what? In this lifetime, this is what I have, and I embrace it. I
Yeah.
don't miss it. I don't miss anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And I love, does Milana, has she ever struggled, or like, have you seen her like really embrace the fact that she is kind of a mix of all these different backgrounds, or how does she kind of navigate that? Before we go on, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We still have so much to talk about. Hey there, Adoption Roadmap fam. Are you ready to take the next step on your journey to parenthood? If so, head over to our website and take our quiz. It's called, Are You Ready to Adopt? It's not just about testing your knowledge, it's about making sure you're emotionally and practically prepared for the beautiful, complex journey of adoption. Let's make your dream of parenthood a reality. Go to rgadoptionconsulting.com and take the Are You Ready to Adopt quiz today. That's rgadoptionconsulting.com. The quiz is free, and it will let you know where you are in the process and if you're ready to jump into your adoption journey. Does Milana, has she ever struggled, or like, have you seen her like really embrace the fact that she is kind of a mix of all these different backgrounds, or how does she kind of navigate that?
Well, Milana, first of all, I want to go back a little bit. She knew she was adopted since day one. Obviously,
Yes.
she was 2 days old when we got her, but I would sing to her saying that she was born from my soul, and
Mm.
born from our souls. And when she was 5, a therapist told us, you need to tell her, like, what it is to be adopted.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, and she was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And she, like, okay. And then she would see me doing all these TV shows and stuff, and she would say, "But how come you do it? I should be the one
Oh.
in those interviews." And I'm like, Milana, of course. But then as she grew older, and now in their teenage years, she doesn't want to have anything to do
I was
with.
gonna say I'll bring her on the podcast. Yeah, but she's a teenager.
She's a teenager. She's 14, so she's like, no. But she doesn't go around telling everyone she's adopted.
Mm-hmm.
But she's very proud,
Yeah.
and at the same time, she knows that she was meant to be, with us. So
Mm-hmm.
so it may be that she thinks about things, but she tells me everything, which is good. Like, when she was 6, she was like, "Oh, how come you don't adopt another baby?" And we're like, "We can't," we just want you, and you'll be our princess forever. And she'll make she's very like sarcastic,
Hmm.
and she'll make comments like, yeah, if you would have adopted, I would have had a sibling and I can fight with them or whatever. And that leads me to, she does have five siblings out there.
Oh, okay. So you do know that because I know that it ended up being a closed adoption.
It is a closed adoption, yes.
Okay.
Both her birth parents and us decided for it to be closed, and they did choose us. We were the fifth couple to come and meet with them before they
Okay.
chose us. So we
Okay.
met both of her biological parents,
Okay.
and we knew that she had placed four others before
Okay.
Milana.
Okay.
And then when Milana was like 6 months old, we found out she was pregnant again. But they disappeared from the face of the earth. We couldn't find them. We would have adopted that baby too,
Mm.
but they disappeared. And the reason, well, I tell people, there's closed adoption, there's open adoption, and I I struggled with not getting close to them because I'm just like a people person, and I love people,
Yeah.
and the attorney was like, you can't, if this is a closed adoption, you can't get close to them. But just know that they're very grateful to you, and they were, when she placed the birth mom placed Milana in my arms, um, the day she was born, so that I could meet her. It was just magical,
Mm.
magical, like two moms, coming together to give this child a
Hmm.
life. um, and yeah, it was great, but I feel like um, that's another thing that is very taboo or very stigmatized in adoption, is not knowing that there's open adoption and that there's closed adoption
Mm.
and all the different ways, through the
Yeah.
adoption process.
Does would there ever be a chance, do you think? I don't know if the attorney still has connection with them, but do you think there'd ever be a chance to open it up?
Um, you know, for the meantime, what the attorney actually retired with Milana's adoption.
Oh.
She was her 1,500 something adoption.
Okay.
She said, I sealed it with a big bang. Milana's amazing.
Uh-huh.
I do still keep in contact with her and Denise, which is our case study worker. But she she lost track of them.
Okay.
We did send pictures. You're supposed to send pictures at 3 months and at 6 months, and they came back. Like
Oh.
they
Okay.
disappeared. Now, for her siblings, she has to be 18 to look for them
Okay.
legally,
Oh.
and
Okay.
for her parents, her
Yeah,
birth
yeah,
parents. So Milana knows, I've told her I'll be the first one to help you in the event that you do want to look for them. And at 6, she wanted to look for them.
yeah.
And now she's like, I don't need to. At this moment, it's okay.
Yeah.
She
Okay.
she doesn't need to, but we'll navigate that when we get to it.
Yeah.
I would love for her to know her background.
Yeah.
What it is that it made her. But I also know that her birth parents are my angels in this lifetime,
Mm.
because without them, I wouldn't be mom. And
Right.
also, they were so loving and wanted to give her, all the love of a family.
Yeah.
And yeah, because that's another thing that people say, they got rid of them. No, people who place their children for adoption, it's deeper than that. And people don't
Yeah.
understand it.
They love their child.
They love their child so much. And I think about them all the time.
Yeah.
For Mother's Day, for her birth, Milana's birthday. I'm like sending them good vibes and praying for them because they were literally my angels.
How do you bring that up with Milana? Do you let her know I'm thinking about them? Like, how do you keep her connected to her story?
When She knows. I've told her before, whenever you want to talk about it, you let me know. It's on your terms. You're the one who decides. I'm not going to push anything on you. And lately, she hasn't brought it up.
Mhm.
Like I said, she'll bring it up one time, like, oh, if I had a sibling around, I'd
My son too.
fight with them or whatever. But she doesn't bring it up. So in my mind, I feel like I think she's content, and she is with her life. Obviously, I want her to know that I'm here for her, and that I'll talk through everything, and if we need to get outside help, we will. But in the meantime, she's told me before, you're our parents. Papi
Yeah.
has tells her, Papi and you are my parents, and I love you guys,
Yeah.
so that's a good thing.
So I heard, I learned a long time ago from adoptees, I think, that we should continue, not all the time, and obviously you're taking her lead, but even by bringing up and saying, I was thinking about your birth mom today on Mother's Day or whatever, just to continue to give her a little bit of, remember, this isn't taboo to talk about if you want to, without like overtly saying, do
That's
you
a
want
great
to talk
idea.
about this? Da, 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 da. Just to keep letting her know, because otherwise, what I've heard from other adoptees is if it's not brought up, they think they shouldn't, right? That's something that they shouldn't talk about. Like, oh, my mom hasn't talked about adoption in like 3 years. Maybe I shouldn't bring it up. Versus if you just kind of bring it up every once in a while, um, to let, as a way to let her know, hey,
That's a
listen,
great
I
idea.
want you to know, even though you haven't talked about it for a while, I think about it often. So if you want to ever talk about it, I'm just want you to know that door's open.
Yeah,
However you want to approach it.
I love that. Yeah, I should.
What advice would you give to Spanish speaking or multicultural families who want to adopt but feel either overwhelmed or underrepresented? And this one I am going to have you do in Spanish and English.
Of course. Um, you know, I feel like we go back to having that tribe, that people that have gone through it before. You need to find the right people to help you navigate, in your own language, obviously, but also, the religious background of it all too, especially in the Hispanic community and the Mexican community. I feel you need to find the right, I don't know, I was going to say pope, but it's not pope, it's a priest, or like, your church or your synagogue, um to help you understand that this is a good thing. Like in Judaism, actually, it's a very good thing. When my rabbi told me, he said, what you're doing, it's a mitzvah, which is a good deed. But I feel like the misrepresentation in the Hispanic community,
Mm-hmm.
here in the U.S. is a miss. It's something that should be looked upon as something normal, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not. La representación de los latinos, más que nada en Estados Unidos, tiene un vacío muy grande en lo que es la adopción, porque no se habla del tema como lo hablan los anglosajones o los americanos. Tenemos que abrirnos la mente para poder llegar a entender el proceso. Y, y definitivamente, como lo dije antes, tienes que tener un círculo de amigos, de familiares o de personas que te puedan apoyar en lo que es la adopción en Estados Unidos y en el mundo entero.
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing you say is to, when you bring up a religious leader, it's because it's probably somebody that they really look up to and respect and know that they won't be met with judgment, to go and share what you're, you know, that you're thinking about adoption, or that you're in the adoption, or that you're whatever it is. Um, because sometimes we feel like we need a blessing, a word of encouragement,
Acceptance.
acceptance for making these huge life decisions that we are making. Is that where that's coming from?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, and who is to say that unfortunately you may come to a religious leader and they're totally against adoption. Don't get
sure.
discouraged either. You know, it's not like it's a hit or miss, but at the same time, um, don't get discouraged if you do find those people that are totally against adoption, because there
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
in the world that don't support it or find it that it's wrong, unfortunately.
It's a very personal decision. And you have to think about, what are the pros? What are the cons? What support am I going to need? In fact, we have a blog on our website. I'll link to it. It's called the Post-it Note Party, to really sit down before you start it and to write all the things down that you're nervous about, that you're excited about, what you're open to, what you're not open to, and if you're in a partnership, to do it separately and then share those Post-it notes together to see where do you align and where do you not. But um, and I always say this to single women too. People are going to have all sorts of comments, and they're going to feel like they need to tell you what you should be doing and give you advice that you didn't ask for. So do the work ahead of time, look internally, and then be convicted with your decision,
Exactly.
and then find that community that will support you. And I think you said that earlier.
Yeah, and to add to that, also when people come to me and or call me and ask me, I tell them, the first step is to be present and to know that this is what you want,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a single person or a couple. That's the first step. The rest, I'll help you with, but I cannot make that decision for you. No one can
Sure.
make the decision for you. And like you said, it's very, very personal. Um, and yeah, just be open to the criticism, the support, the everything that comes with wanting to adopt,
For
or
sure.
the adoption process. But I feel like 14 years after, or 14 years later, after we started our adoption journey, I feel we've come a long way, even though it's been baby steps in the
Mm-hmm.
adoption process. There is, especially in the Hispanic community, people talk more about it, a little bit more about it, and I just hope that it just gets more out there,
Yeah,
that we talk
I
more
think
about
it is. I think there's way more people online in social media having adoption conversations, education, having hard conversations. And listen, if you want to find the beauty in adoption, you'll find it. If you want to find the negative in adoption, you'll find it. It's all a matter of you know, what do you want to find? You'll find it. Um, it's good to hear and see all sides, and don't go down a rabbit hole of the negative, because those voices tend to be louder
it.
sometimes than the positive. But I think that's starting to change. I think it's starting to equal out a little bit more, which is a beautiful thing to see. I think there's more people sharing the beauty of adoption. um,
Yeah, and social media definitely plays a big part because
sure.
you know, people tend to love seeing other people, doing what they do, and and I feel like definitely the the good will always
Prevail.
prevail. Yes, prevail.
Yes.
Hmm.
What's one thing about your adoption journey you wish more people would ask you about?
They've asked me everything, actually.
Yeah. Or maybe what's your favorite question that you get?
um, my favorite question would have to be, why did it take so long?
Yeah,
And I'm like,
totally.
well, and this was someone close in my family.
Uh-huh.
When we got matched, it was October, and Milana was born March 29th. And she was like, why do you have to wait so long? And I'm like, well, when you get pregnant, you have to wait 9 months, you know? So yeah, I just wished in my adoption journey for people to say, I'm here for you. I'm
Mm,
rooting you on. We didn't have any GoFundMe's or anything. We had to do it
mhm,
all on our own and asking family, to help us a little bit financially. Now I tell, the people that come to Born from Our Souls, I say, you have GoFundMe pages that you can create, or
there's a
other
lot of resources.
organizations,
Yeah.
a lot of resources. Um, and I wish people would say, is there anything you need?
How can I support you?
How can I support you? Let
Yeah.
me, yeah, just the support. That's what I feel. I wish I had
Yeah.
with my adoption journey, for sure.
That's so amazing. I we are about to launch an adoptive parent community for adoptive parents, um, which the community you'll all hear way more about. But one of the questions I was asked was, "What does adoption support look like for you?" And I think you just nailed a huge one. It looks like somebody asking, "How can I support you?" That's support. I love that.
Absolutely. And please count me in. I would love to be in that.
Wonderful. Good.
You know, I,
Um,
I love you and I'll support anything you do.
oh, God. You're a beautiful soul, Aida. And I love the fact that our paths crossed so long ago over social media,
Yeah.
years ago. Before we end this conversation, which I think has been full of golden nuggets, I do have a little rapid fire round. So the first one is, and I think you did previously, but give a shout out to one person or organization that's influenced your adoption journey or the work you're doing in adoption.
At this moment, RG adoption.
Ah, I did not pay her, folks.
Mm-mm.
What's
No, she
one
didn't.
piece of What's one piece of advice you would like to share with adoptive parents or hopeful adoptive parents?
Keep your eye and your hope on that child.
Say that in Spanish.
Mantengan la esperanza de que van a ser papás. You will
What's
become parents. Keep your hope on becoming parents.
alive? What's one thing you wish every adoptive parent knew before they brought their child home?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Just love them. They're yours.
Yeah, they're yours.
I'm gonna
Describe
cry.
adoption
I
in
didn't
three
cry this whole
words.
time. Oh my god.
That's okay.
I'm so proud of
I love
myself.
that. Yeah, a lot of people ask that, like, will I love this child as much as if I gave birth? And I think we
Let
both
me
know
tell you,
that for
I'll say it
sure.
in English and in Spanish. Like I said before, and this will be my grand remark, but I would do everything all over again to have Milana as my daughter. She was born to be my daughter, and I was born to be her mother. And I really think that I was meant to. This is my mission in life. This is my passion. Adoption is my passion. I do PR for a living, and I love doing PR, but adoption is my passion. Lo que decía es que para mí yo viviría lo mismo 100,000 veces otra vez para tener a mi hija conmigo, a Milana. Yo sé que Dios nos puso en este camino y a mí me hizo su mamá y yo y ella mi hija antes de nacer. Y sé que no importa todo lo que pases, pero al final del día el amor que uno tiene por un ser es lo más importante.
Describe adoption in 3 words.
Love, resilience, and hope.
Adoption is not just a destination, it's a journey filled with love, resilience, and growth. Wherever you are on this roadmap, trust in your path, stay open to learning, and always lead with your heart. You already have everything you need to create a beautiful story for your family. And when the road takes unexpected detours, I'm here to help you navigate every turn along the adoption roadmap. Thank you so much, Aida.
Thank you, Becca.
Bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. If you did, I have a few favors to ask of you. First, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, I'd love to hear your takeaways. Please write a review and let me know what you liked. And if you have a question or a suggestion on what you'd like to hear, I'd love to hear that too. Please shoot me an email at support@rgadoptionconsulting.com and let me know what you'd like to hear about. And if you have a question, I may just answer it online. Thanks again for listening. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday morning for a brand new episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.